everyone, welcome back to another Walk the Talk episode, and today we're joined by a special guest who we're going to talk to a little bit about property management. But before we jump into that, just a little bit of a background and intro. Today we're joined by Brigette Connery, who is working in collaboration with us here in her own business, which you can see behind me, Bridge & Co, both in the sales aspect in Adelaide, but also in the property management sector as well. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Brigette's company, Bridge & Co, in the property management space. So Brigette, thanks for joining us again today.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's always a pleasure to be here with you.
We love having you on. You're a busy mum, wife, selling real estate agent, running a property management arm to your business. And what I love about you is you're very authentic and hands-on with your business. You know, I only seen the other week that you're at a property that you were managing and you're actually out there doing some gardening, you were sweeping, like what were you doing there? Tell me a little bit about that property that I've seen on your socials.
Oh, I think that was the one at Ponton Street, wasn't it?
Yep.
Look, you know, the tenant left it. I wasn't managing it, of course, but the tenant left it in an okay state. And basically, excuse me, the phone's ringing there. It's probably a tenant. And I got my husband there, and I said, "Look, bring your lawnmower, and we're gonna give it a bit of a spruce up." So sometimes it's just easier to, you know, go hands on and do a little bit yourself rather than organising all the trades, and, you know, just for small little things that just make that little bit of difference, I suppose, like cleaning the windows and giving it a vacuum before we have the professional photos, just for that extra touch.
I love it. I love it. You're hands-on. It's your business. It's your baby. Your clients are dealing with you from beginning to end. And I think it's a real unique point of difference, because I know a lot of property management businesses that, yes, business owners just have it bolted on as an arm to their business, and they employ people just to sort of take care of that side of the business. Like I know business owners that almost like, I don't want to deal with that area of the business, right? Let's just get people to take care of it because I just want to list and transact properties. So you obviously do both. You service the whole Adelaide region, both from a sales and property management perspective. But as I let in, we're going to talk today just specifically about property management, and we're going to talk about some of the real differences landlords should be mindful of, or things they should consider between self-managing and having a beautiful hands-on property manager like yourself that is extremely thorough, and you're very proud in the service that you provide. So just tell us a little bit about your property management business. What are the areas you mainly service and look after?
Yeah, so I like to provide that extra service to people, usually from, you know, if they've purchased a property that I've sold as an investment property. I'm coming from a place of service, because what I saw over the years that I've been doing this, what I saw was when licensing came in to South Australia for property managers, you know, a lot of the people that had been doing property management 2-3 years dropped off the radar. And didn't go ahead with their licensing, and it was very difficult to find somebody that would do what you needed them to do, basically. So can I jump in there?
Can I just ask you, why do you think that is, though? Why do you think as soon as they brought in new licensing laws that a lot of these skilled and experienced property managers left the industry?
Look, I think it's an industry where you do a lot of work and you do a lot of extra stuff, and you don't always get recognized for it. It's a very tough job. And so if you're not running the show, it can get, you know, you can get worn out. You know, a lot of property managers, if they don't manage their business properly, they get burnt out. And it can be a very thankless sort of industry to be in. So I think, a lot of the longer term people that were in it were sort of a bit fed up and decided, you know, to leave. And then also those people that hadn't been doing it long, it was too hard. So then you had like a situation where you've got hardly any property managers, you know, bosses are trying to hire experienced property managers, and they're not able to, or they're not able to financially give them what they need to basically do the job well. And, you know, property managers weren't taking ownership for a lot of stuff that was going on. And so, you know, they would leave. They'd basically get burnt out and leave. And then the clients are left, you know, with this property that hasn't been managed right. And you've got all sorts of problems.
I remember as a business owner in my former business, when the licensing came in, there was a bit of uproar, and to the point that like our property managers were like, we're not paying for the licensing. We shouldn't have to. So we had this real roadblock, because I think to get the license, quote me if I'm wrong, it was about $700-800 to do it all.
It was not cheap. It was not cheap. Yeah.
Which to, you know, somebody, this isn't their business like yours. This is them. They just go in. It's like Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. There's all this other stuff that they do as property managers that happen outside of that. But technically it's a Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 job. Then all of a sudden we brought in this licensing, which I think has been a great thing, because as a selling agent, I need to be compliant. I need to be fully licensed, police checks, you know, it cleans the industry absolutely from all the nasty things that can potentially pose a risk. But there was that cost. And we actually had to go halves with some of our property managers to get them certified, because we didn't want to lose them, because we knew, well, if we lose them, we're trying to rehire, retrain, get somebody settled in. It disrupts the landlord, it disrupts the tenant. So we actually met them halfway.
And that takes time. And then during that time, you've got lease breaks, and you've got properties being sold, and you've got maintenance that hasn't been done, and tenants going to the tribunal. And everyone is so litigious at the moment. Like, you go to the tribunal for literally just, you know, somebody, I don't know, just small things that back in the day, it didn't used to happen. So it's very time consuming, very time consuming. If you don't have that commitment from a good property manager, your life can turn very difficult very quickly if you're a business owner.
So okay, so let's say I'm a landlord, right, and I'm wanting to list my property for rent through Bridge & Co property management. Let's talk about self-managed. So let's say I've been a self-managed landlord, and I'm considering property management professionally done by someone like yourself. You lived a recent example of self-managed a scenario that happened recently. What are some things that you've experienced, you've seen, and some recommendations you'd put forward to any landlords that potentially watch this, or any agents like you and I that may be thinking of starting their own property management business? What do you see the difference between a professional service or a self-managed property management service?
I think that people just think it's easy. They think that they're just going to go collect the rent. They're going to, you know, they might not do an inspection because they think the tenant's doing the right thing. My experience comes from years of going in, seeing properties, seeing how people look after properties, understanding how people work. And people might say it's a gut feel, but it's actually a gut feel from having that experience over, you know, the last 15, 20 years of seeing different things happen in properties. So I think it's not as easy as just, you know, going in and collecting the rent. I think if nowadays, especially if you don't follow the letter of the law, if you don't do the right thing, you'll end up in the tribunal, and it'll end up costing you way more than it is to actually pay the property manager the fees, an experienced property manager. And the other thing that I've seen is that you might not pay a property manager to look after it, or if you have a property manager that's not experienced and they put in a bad tenant over years and years of that bad, you know, the tenant not looking after the property, it then comes time to sell your investment. I've seen times where it's cost the landlord $100,000-200,000 difference because that property hasn't been maintained over those years. So that can mean a huge financial detriment to the owner if it's not done properly over a long period of time, which, let's face it, most people with investment properties have them for at least a minimum of 6 years. And it can just mean the difference between a lot of money. So
so, like, you know, and I always say this too, because some of the worst case scenarios that we often see within our industry is one of a few, and one of them is self-managed. Would it be fair to say, in your experience, that you feel tenants would understand their rights and obligations more so than the landlord when it comes to self-managing?
100%. They do. They absolutely do. And that's why you see relationships fail and suffer. Like when I hear people say to me, I'm just going to put a family member in there. I just go, oh my God, no, because it literally always ends in tears. And I think it's that whole thing as well. Like if you've got a middle person or a go-between person, it becomes a much more professional process. And that's why relationships sour, because a tenant doesn't have an issue if I'm doing everything right and by the law. They don't have an issue in advising me of maintenance issues or, things that they need to tell me in order for them to look after the property to the best of their ability. But when an owner, when a tenant is telling an owner directly, oh, there's a burst pipe or there's a leaking tap or this needs to be done, they get offended. They feel it's unnecessary. They think maybe the tenant's done something maliciously. You need that go-between person to manage it, if that makes sense, like a third party. Because it always ends in tears, unfortunately.
I say it even when I'm presenting to a potential landlord. I say, look, unfortunately, the worst case scenarios I see in my world when it comes to property management is one of two. One is it's a personal relationship that they put into a property. Now, the challenge with that is that you've got to look at your investment property like a business. Okay.
You do.
You got to take emotion out of it. The business is your property, right? Because you got to pay the mortgage, whether the tenant does or not. The bills still have to be paid for the business, irrespective of what the client does. And the client is the tenant. So you've got to treat your tenant like a client. Now, if you love your client, you treat your client well, they appreciate your business, they're generally going to look after your home. Okay. Correct. Whereas when there's that emotional factor that can come into it, it's hard to mix, as the old saying goes, business and pleasure. That can often get in the way of things. And the second thing that I say is when they put a friend or a family member in and then they self-manage it, it's a double whammy, because
that's right.
The friend or family probably knows tenancy rights and obligations better than what the landlord does, and things are done on handshake agreements, no bond. When was the last time you did a routine inspection? Oh, we don't do those. I just go out there once a year. And I actually say that to a potential landlord. I say, look, when we screen tenants, as we do, if we go to an agency with the tenant with agency history, there's a lot more we can see. We can get the last routine report to validate what the property is presented during a routine report. We can get a copy of the ledger statement so we can see their ingoing rent, but also SA water consistency. We can see a lot more. Whereas if I ring up a landlord, what systems do you have? Can I see your bank statements of the rent going into your account? Because I don't want to see where it's going from. I want to see the money going in. No, I'm not going to give you that information. Or do you have any documentation that supports the last time you viewed the home? Photos, conditional report. And often a self-managed landlord will say, nah, I just walk out there once a year to make sure everything's kosher. So we often fly blind into self-managed.
And then you're in a tribunal situation and they could be out of pocket thousands of dollars just because they trusted them. That was a family member. Oh, no, she'll be right. The other thing that happened to me recently was, and I won't go into too much detail, but it was my gut feel from my years of experience. I met this person. They came through the property. They were beautiful to talk to, very well presented. Just something didn't feel right. And so I looked into it further. The date of birth was different to the application on the, so application date of birth, driver's license date of birth was out. So then I delved deeper. I searched the name. I went onto Facebook. I found out that this person hadn't been, wasn't who they say they were.
False
there
identity.
was some issues. Correct. And so I would say that if a private landlord was doing an open and this person came through the property, presented the way they were, they would have thought fantastic and put them in, and that could have been a very, very difficult and different situation. So that just experience counts for a lot, I believe, in situations like that. And dodged a bullet there.
I think like I always say to any potential landlord, what the most important part is securing the best tenant before day one, because once the tenant in, things are a lot harder to manage from that point onwards, within the law, obviously. But also to tenants as well, it also can be a detriment to them when they apply for properties through an agency or a business like you and I, if they've only got private rental history. Because again, like what information can I see? Like, there's no routine inspection history I can see because your private landlord hasn't done any. There's no ledger statement that I can see to see the frequency and consistency of your rent payments. So, and a lot of tenants don't actually understand this. They think renting off friends or family, great, it might be a quick Band-Aid fix, but it's like your credit file. And that's what I explain to tenants. You've got to build your tenant credit file over time to make yourself look more appealing. You can't go out and get a loan today without having maybe a Telstra mobile credit account opened up, maybe a little credit card allowance, whatever it might be. You've got to build your credit rating up. It's the same as your tenancy rating.
Yeah, absolutely. And even things like keeping a clean ledger. If you're wanting to buy a house one day, making sure that all those payments are on time and correct, it might seem like a little thing at the time, but a couple of days late here and there, the banks aren't going to look kindly on you. And the other thing that I've found is we are in a rental crisis at the moment. It is very difficult to get a rental property. I had 38 applications for a property that I sold and then rented for the owner. 38. Yep. I had over 100 inquiries.
Gee.
Now, back in the day, it used to be you applied for a property. If you're a naughty boy or girl and you didn't pay your rent and you might have stuffed the property manager around and had a bad history or been evicted, you could kind of get away with then renting another house because there was, too many properties and not enough tenants.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Now, absolutely, with the technology that we've got today and the things that we can check of people today and the tenants, you will never rent again in the near future if you have stuffed around and done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that tenants are aware of that.
Yeah.
And it's pretty tough out there these days. So yeah.
So take me through, like, let's say if I was a landlord, I was looking to self-manage, like, could I reach out to you just as for some general advice? I don't have to list my property with you, but just say, like, I've been managing it for a period of time, or I'm thinking of self-managing it. Like, could I just speak to you and just get some advice and some general options as to what I should look into or consider when self-managing?
I really welcome that. I don't have a problem with that at all. And it might be just one thing that I can say to help you, be on your way. So I think that's not an issue. Give me a call and we can chat through it. And like I said, there might be one or two things that I can assist you with that might, trigger something to go, okay, maybe I need to do it that way. And that might help you down the track. So, yeah.
And when you screen a tenant, because what I always say to my potential landlords is one of two things. My job is to minimize your risk in securing the best tenant before day one, and then making sure your experience and that of your tenants' service and commitment and communication, everything's harmonious, and we're maximizing your rental return. So to do that, though, there's a bit of a screening process before day one. Like, what are some of the real trigger points that you dive into when screening tenants? Like, what do you see as the non-negotiables?
Yeah, okay. So I make sure that everything matches up. So your previous history, your driver's license with your ID, with your, electricity and phone bills, everything matches up and tells a story about a person.
Yep.
It's really important to make sure that you do have that good history with a property manager where possible, because we'll take that way more times over somebody that's rented off mum and dad or rented off, a private person. And generally just be really honest on the application. If you've got a pet, make sure you put the pet. If you are having extra people live in the home, start the relationship off really well and honestly, and that will ensure that you have a really good relationship moving forward. Because if that's not the right property for you, if you have to lie on your application to secure a property, then that's not the property for you. You need to move on to one that's actually going to suit your needs and requirements. And most good property managers will be able to tell whether you're not doing the right thing, because if it's the truth, then it's not fishy. And like I said, there's always going to be another property for you, the right property. I think it's just really important to be upfront and honest with your property manager, and just tell that story and just communicate and be open about your situation.
It's like anything, any relationship, get off on the right foot with honesty. It's going to be a happy relationship long term.
100%.
And unfortunately in our world we hear too much of the doom and gloom with respect to property management and tenants and landlords, but I can tell you, no one likes to tell a good story in the media, but there are more good stories than there are bads when it comes to property management. But there is, like anything, when you're investing money, there's an element of risk. The same when you're managing a property, there's an element of risk. Our job is to minimize that 10% risk factor. And I think you do a wonderful job of it. And that's a classic example, because I've had it in my own world where I had some identity theft and my car was broken into. I lost my driver's license. Anyway, long story short, I had all this plant and equipment that was hired out in my name in from Coates Hire, but just simple things. They missed differences in the paperwork from the hire equipment to then what my driver's license read. And I'm like, how did you not put the two and two together? Like, the driver's license used was expired at the date the equipment was hired out. Like, did you not think? So just small things like that is so important. The date of birth,
attention to detail and experience, looking into that, going with your gut feel. But that gut feel comes from the experience of doing that over and over again and being vigilant and making sure that you're looking after your client's best interest.
Yeah,
because that's what your job is, basically, to protect their asset, to protect their finances and their future. I take great pride in making sure that that service from beginning to end when I'm renting out a property is of the utmost, I do it 100% perfect for my client, because I know, different to sales where you've got this relationship for 1-2 months and then off they go and they've bought their own property or sold or whatever. I have a relationship with my clients for 1, 2, 3 years, and I have to nurture and maintain. And if that's got to be built on trust, and that's got to be built on truth. That foundation has to be strong. And that's what I make sure I do. So I might not do as many properties. I'm not looking to grow my portfolio to be, this big monster. I just want to make sure that every experience I have is spot on, and people can actually refer me with confidence, knowing that I'm going to do the best thing for them, for their property. So
I love it. Scale up economies and focus on quality control over a large portfolio of properties, which, to be honest, a lot of these larger portfolios, that's where stuff happens, because as you grow bigger, there's more risk for error. Whereas I love it that you're super concentrated, you're very hands-on. Your landlords and tenants get you. You're the business owner. It's your property management business, and baby, it's your brand. Like, the buck stops with you. And I like dealing with people like that in life. And I know that's a real unique proposition that I have with my landlords as well, because you're not dealing with a property manager. You're dealing with me. I'm the business owner. You're my asset. Absolutely. Let me be very clear about that. You are an asset. This relationship is, you're an asset to me.
100%. And what was I going to say? I've just learned over years of doing this that people like, number one, obviously they like communication. They want to know who they're dealing with, and they want to know that they can pick up the phone and I'm able to give them an answer, a thorough answer. Like, for example, in a lot of big companies, you've got somebody who does trust accounting, you've got somebody that does the inspections, you've got somebody that does the opens, you've got somebody that does the ingoings, you've got somebody does the maintenance. So an owner rings up, oh, what's happening with this? Oh, hang on, I'll just put you through to this department. Then they go, oh, hang on a second, I think such and such did that. I'll just put you through to this department.
Like calling a call centre.
Nightmare.
Yeah, we don't deal with that in this department. Even though you're my client, though, we don't deal with that here. I've got to put you through to the other area of the call centre. That pisses me off. I hate that. I totally agree. I think that's, like, the buck does stop with you. Like, if you've got a trust question, really I'll answer it. If you've got a routine inspection, I got the answer. You're the one-stop shop. That's really, really vital. Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
That's my sales transaction of the business, which we're aligned with and super proud to be, and we collaborate with. But you run your own property management, right? So EXP powers you for your sales side of the business, so you can list and transact. Bridge and Co property management, completely separate. Let's say whether I'm this brand, black, pink, yellow, white brand, whatever, and I want to grow my own little portfolio as a real estate agent, could you help me do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it would be my pleasure to help anyone that wants to do what I'm doing. I think there's a real need for good quality, honest, trustworthy people that are going to do the right thing in this industry. And if I can be that person to help strengthen that and strengthen that bond and trust and relationship between the clients and the property managers, I'd love to do that. Yeah.
So if I'm a sales agent, right? So instead of maybe referring my property management investor landlord clients to my business that I might work within because I get a 1 week's letting fee, if I wanted to grow something off to the side, could I reach out to you as an agent even though I'm not EXP?
Yes, you could, because I'm completely separate. My Bridge and Co is completely separate to EXP. So I'm my own boss. I'm my own lady.
I love
I
it.
can
You're
help
your
you
own
with
queen.
whatever you need.
So
yeah.
if there's any real estate agents that are watching this, whether regardless of who you work for, maybe you want to build a little property management empire and asset like Brigette is, maybe reach out to her, have a chat to her, how she's working in collaboration with other like-minded industry agents to help them build their asset, because I'm sure she'll share with you, if you reach out to her, what you're getting in a weekly letting fee is referring that business and flicking it off to somebody else's asset is worth a heck of a lot more if you retain the asset and own it yourself, but maybe work in collaboration with Brigette on what that might look like for you as a model. So keep that in mind.
100%. Yeah,
because
it's
that's the way of the future.
Growth, really. Yeah, it is. Well, it is the way of the future. I agree with you. And look, I think people are catching on now, but it hasn't really been done. But it makes so much sense, especially with the way that we're working now. Post COVID. There's lots of different things we can do to support real estate agents with the property management arm. And although, it doesn't mean setting up a whole new business, we've definitely got ways that we can actually support the agents. They can grow their asset. They can have that property management arm without all of the hassles of setting up a new business and setting up, a trust account and all that kind of stuff. We can definitely do something there. So yeah,
love it. Got all the tools, resources ready to go. So in concluding today's podcast, because I know you're busy, you're a mum, you're probably doing school pickup in between work and appointments that are to come and follow, plus dinner, maybe spend some time with hubby at the end of the day.
Dinner, shivers, I forgot about that.
Drive through, here we go.
Absolutely.
So thank you for clarifying the real importance and the pivotal differences between professionally managing a property with respect to privately managing it. Again, if you're a landlord, reach out to Brigette. I'm sure she'll give you some free, honest advice with no expectations of your business in return, but hopefully maybe she adds some value and can foster a relationship of value over time. Also, if you're an industry real estate agent and you're just flicking all your managements, whether it's 2 a year or 10 or 20 a year, and you're getting 1 week's letting fee, you're probably discounting yourself. I would encourage reaching out to Brigette again and seeing how you can maybe start to build your own asset in collaboration with her, with all the systems and foundations already in place. Love the branding, love everything that you're doing from a sales and property management point of view. Thanks for joining us. I know you're incredibly busy, but invaluable stuff always.
Thank you so much. You're a lovely man, Chris. I always love talking to you. I know you're very busy as well, and I appreciate you taking the time to ask me questions, and I always enjoy our time together. So
bless you. It's absolutely my privilege and pleasure. Thanks for your time, Queen. Catch up with you soon. And until the next episode, folks, it's bye for now from Walk the Talk. Cheers.
Bye.